Rome was built on conquest, but what truly held it together was faith. Not in emperors, not in armies, but in a handful of women guarding a single flame. When Rome's monarchy fell in 509 BC, kings were exiled. A republic rose. 500 years later, that republic tore itself apart. Augustus became Rome's first emperor. The empire began, 3 governments, over 1,000 years. Every institution transformed, except one. 6 women, tending a fire in the heart of the Forum, unchanged, unbroken, uninterrupted. They held no office, commanded no armies, cast no votes. Their duty? To keep the city's sacred flame alive. Yet a single word from them could override a Senate death sentence. Magistrates lowered their fasces when they passed. They kept the wills of Caesar, of Antony, of Augustus. They knew who ruled Rome before anyone else. They were the Vestal Virgins. How do you survive 3 governments when you wield no sword, no legion, no crown? How do you hold power in a world that says you have none? There's one reason, one belief that made them untouchable. Let me show you how it worked. To understand the Vestals, you have to understand what Romans believed about fire. Every Roman home had a hearth, sacred to Vesta, goddess of the household. That flame meant life itself, warmth, food, safety. If it died out, it was an omen. The gods had turned away. Even Rome's founding story ties back to Vesta's flame. Legend says that Rhea Silvia, a Vestal priestess, was chosen to serve the goddess and sworn to eternal chastity. But the god Mars came to her, some say by divine will, others by force, and she bore twin sons, Romulus and Remus. Her punishment was death. Yet from her sons, Rome was born. From the very beginning, Rome's destiny was tied to the Vestals, the sacred and the forbidden bound together in one story. So when Romans looked at the sacred flame, they didn't just see fire. They saw their origins, their survival, their divine favor. Rome needed one flame for all its people, one hearth for the entire city. That flame burned in the Temple of Vesta, in the Forum's heart, the same space where politics, power, and faith collided. Romans believed that as long as this flame burned, the gods protected them. If it went out, Rome was vulnerable to plague, invasion, or divine wrath. 6 priestesses kept it burning, chosen as children, bound to 30 years of service. Their continuity meant Rome's continuity. And here's the logic every Roman understood. These women keep the flame alive. The flame protects Rome. Therefore, these women protect Rome itself. You can't replace what you believe keeps your world alive. You can't strip privileges from those who preserve divine favor. Belief made them necessary. Necessity made them powerful. But belief alone doesn't create power. It has to operate in plain sight. The Vestals worked in shifts, day and night. The smoke from their flame rose over the Forum, a visible reminder that divine protection was active. Every Roman could see it. Every Roman depended on it. This made them irreplaceable. Priests came and went. Consuls rotated yearly. But the Vestals were permanent, steady as the flame itself. Their 30-year careers were divided into 3 stages: 10 learning, 10 serving, 10 teaching. Each generation trained the next, preserving every word and motion of their sacred rituals. Roman religion demanded perfection. A single mistake meant divine displeasure. The result? Perfect continuity across centuries. The Vestals of Caesar's time performed the same rites as those of the early kings, and Rome rewarded them. They were sui juris, legally independent, the only Roman women free from male guardianship. They could own property, make contracts, and draft wills. In court, their testimony required no oath. They were sacred, truth embodied. If a Vestal encountered a condemned man and said stop, he was freed. Why? Because mercy from a Vestal was mercy from the gods. Their temples stored the wills of Rome's most powerful men, Caesar, Antony, Augustus, neutral, sacred ground. They knew succession before anyone else. When they moved through the city, magistrates lowered their fasces. They rode in covered carriages, seated beside senators in the games. Every privilege was a visible sign of invisible power, but visibility came with danger. When the flame went out, panic followed. The responsible Vestal was flogged, sometimes executed, buried alive if accused of breaking her vows. Even punishment proved their importance, because Rome only feared losing what it depended on. Now here's what's truly extraordinary. The Vestals survived everything Rome threw at them. 509 BC, the kings are expelled, the monarchy erased, the Vestals remain. The Republic rises, centuries of war, corruption, assassination. They remain. Caesar falls. Augustus becomes emperor. The Republic dies. The Vestals continue, blessing the new regime. Monarchy, Republic, Empire, 3 worlds, 1 institution. They didn't serve any government. They served Rome itself, its identity, its divine heartbeat. As long as the flame burned, Rome endured. For over 1,000 years, they were the thread running through every transformation, untouched by politics, untouchable by rulers. True power isn't just commanding legions. It's surviving the fall of everyone who does. After a millennium, the Vestals didn't fall to conquest or rebellion. They fell to belief itself. 391 AD, Emperor Theodosius, a Christian, bans pagan rites. 394 AD, the eternal flame is extinguished. No armies, no riots, just silence. The temple closed, the priestesses dismissed. Their privileges erased, Rome changed its faith, and with that, it changed its reality. Because power built on belief lasts only as long as the belief does. When faith shifts, the flame dies. Over 1,000 years, 3 governments, 1 sacred fire. The Vestals endured not by ruling, but by being indispensable. They never fought for power. They became the thing power depended on. That's why they outlasted kings, consuls, and emperors. And it's why their story still matters. Because once you understand how belief becomes power, you start seeing the pattern everywhere, in empires, in religions, in the systems we live under today. And if you've seen our video on Dune, you'll recognize that pattern instantly. Frank Herbert studied institutions like the Vestals when creating the Bene Gesserit, women whose influence spans 10,000 years. But there's one key difference between them. You'll find it in that video, linked below. So drop a comment on what you'd like us to explore next. And subscribe. Because once you see how faith turns into control, you'll start spotting it in every story ever told.